in second language teaching and learning. An important aspect of learning any language is also to know how to use that language in a given culture. Or, to put in other words, how is a given language that we want to learn actually works within a given lecture. Now, we can safely say that students cannot master a language without mastering the cultural context in which it is used. That would mean you can learn different constructions of language or different structures of a language. You can learn the grammar of a language, the vocabulary of a language, but you cannot possibly say that you have learned a language until and unless you know how to use a specific language in a given context. Now, what is the importance of culture in language teaching? There are two aspects to the importance of culture in language teaching. Number one is that language itself, the forms of language actually express or reflect the culture. So culture is actually embedded in the different forms or that the language takes. For instance, to give you an example over here, in Urdu you have this difference between aap and tum. In English you do not have that difference between aap and tum. You only have you. So it reflects the more direct culture of English language in which they do not differentiate whether you are talking to somebody elder or talking to a peer or you're talking to a child. In Urdu, however, you differentiate between the social distance you might have with the other person. So somebody elder, if you're talking to them, you will use the word aap. Somebody higher in the hierarchy, you will use the word aap rather than tum or tu, which reflects a more something as if you are very familiar with that person. Similarly, if you learn Korean language, they have 6 different ways of addressing someone, and these 6 different ways actually depends whether you are talking to your grandmother or your grandfather or your mother or your father or your elder sibling or sibling of your own age or a younger sibling. So this construction of language, the different forms of the language reflect the values of a culture. So it's absolutely important to understand what that language is reflecting about the culture of a context if we plan to learn a language. So we can say that linguistic competence is simply not enough. It is not enough because why do we learn a language? We learn a language to use it with others, and we want to use it with those who understand it. So if that is the focus, then we also need to understand the cultural norms within which the language is working. So the learners definitely need to know the culturally appropriate ways to address people, express gratitude, make a request, agree or disagree, and several other functions that they might need the language to perform for them. So teachers, it's absolutely important that they make those cultural features explicit. They make it obvious for the learners. They make it a point of discussion, and they compare it with the culture of the children, whatever cultural context they are studying in. They need to compare the target culture with the indigenous culture or the cultures of the children, so that they can make a connection, they can make comparison and try to understand how different cultures work, not only how different cultures work, but how languages actually work differently in different cultures. So linguistically correct phrases may not be appropriate to use, and students need to know both the linguistic and the cultural norms. Otherwise, they will not learn the second language appropriately. So because they cannot possibly put the second language skills, their learned second language skills, to help them do what they want to do.